The Mortal Kombat franchise has been popular for decades, and if you've played the games, you know that feeling of finding out some secret stage or a hidden character, right? Like when the game does something that the manual never told you about, and then suddenly everything makes sense, and you feel like Indiana Jones excavating some top secret tomb. Yup. That's the feeling I got when I looked into the deleted scenes from the original Mortal Kombat films. Both the 1995 movie and its sequel, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which came out in '97, are loud, chaotic, and they're basically 90s time capsules. The first became one of the most beloved video game movies of its era, even though it didn't have much company, and while Annihilation became one of the most infamous sequels in the genre, both are beloved by fans for their own reasons. But here's the thing, even these wild maximalist movies had more. Yup, they had extra fights, alternate death scenes, and character moments that never made it to the final cut. And some of what they cut would have developed characters in a way that would have made us understand what the stakes truly were, if you catch my meaning. So that's why today we're going to be looking into these cuts that got left on the cutting room floor and find out what these movies would have been if those moments had stayed in. It's going to be a good one, so let's get into it. Mortal Kombat 1995. It's a guy thing. The Johnny Cage scene that would have changed the movie for us. The tournament ship, often referred to by fans as the Dragon Wing, was carrying Earth's warriors to the tournament, and then Sub-Zero and Scorpion make their entrance. We all know that this is one of the most iconic character introductions in 90s cinema. They step out of the shadows, the guitar riff hits, and the audience loses their minds. But according to long-running fan recollection from people who watched early cuts or early theatrical releases, there was actually a moment that was cut from the VHS and DVD versions of the film. According to accounts documented on Mortal Kombat Online's forum threads, Sonya drew her weapon when the ninjas appeared, which is totally reasonable. The standoff begins and she asks Johnny to get behind her, but you know what kind of man Johnny is. He wasn't about to get behind her even if his life depended on it, and that led to an argument between the two. Sub-Zero ends the whole argument by freezing her gun. Johnny Cage's machismo leads to Sonya losing her best weapon. If the scene hadn't been cut, we would have seen that both Johnny and Sonya had strong personalities and clash from the get-go, and that would have made the moment where they eventually come to respect one another a bigger deal. In the final film, we see that they have tension, but we don't know where the friction comes from. If we had seen this scene, it would have made more sense. Johnny's arrogance literally got Sonya's weapon frozen, which would have grounded the dynamic, plus you would have understood that Johnny Cage has genuinely bad instincts in dangerous situations, which would have made him a more interesting character. But we also understand why they cut the scene. The introduction of Sub-Zero and Scorpion is all about power, build-up, and release. But this extra dialogue before the ninjas appear would have deflated all the tension that the scene was building up to. The scene needed to land, and it needed to look cool, and we think Paul W.S. Anderson made the right call cutting this one. Johnny Cage's warning to Art Lean that got cut out. This scene is one of the most fan-documented deleted scenes from the original film. Before Art Lean goes into the fight with Goro, Johnny reportedly approaches him and gives him tactical advice to move away from Goro before he can grab him. This makes sense. Now we know what happened to Art Lean. Goro turns him into a mass of limbs, but this little scene matters. You see, in the theatrical cut, Johnny is the kind of guy that sometimes does something heroic and sometimes just quips something smartass. Nothing wrong with that, of course, since that's the Johnny Cage we know and love. His relationship with Art Lean is brief and warm, but when Art dies, the whole death lands like a plot point and not something that's registering on a deeper level. But if this scene had stayed, not only would it have made this death hit harder, it also would have made Johnny's eventual confrontation with Goro feel a lot more personal. In the theatrical cut, Johnny is fighting Goro because he wants to fight someone and Goro is available, or at least that's the vibe we get. But with the context of him warning Art Lean and then watching his friend get butchered, repaints the fight in a different light. He's fighting Goro because his friend couldn't. And some fans have reported seeing versions of this scene in certain VHS cuts or alternate home video memories of the film. Because of that, this seems to be a late cut made during the post-production stage, most probably because of runtime, and it kind of makes sense why it disappeared. This scene happens in the middle of the film, and we assume that the people in charge felt that this short conversation slowed down the rhythm of the fighting. The first movie didn't have enough fights, then they shot more. Mortal Kombat is all about fights, so it's very surprising to learn that early cuts of the first film actually got comments that they didn't have enough fights. Yep, we're not kidding. See, Larry Kasanoff, the producer, and Paul W.S. Anderson, the director, screened an early cut of the 1995 film for a test audience, and according to the interview with The Hollywood Reporter on the 20th anniversary of the film, Kasanoff noted that the audience loved the film, but they said there was a distinct lack of fights. So they had to add more fights, including expanded action material for Scorpion's fight with Johnny Cage and Reptile's fight with Liu Kang. Yup, some of the most memorable fights from the 1995 movie were added after the fact. The Hong Kong wire work that Robin Shou helped choreograph came directly out of those reshoots, and this helped him bring a more Hong Kong-inspired wire work flavor into a mainstream Hollywood video game movie. And without these scenes, the film would have been incomplete. I mean, I can't imagine Mortal Kombat without Liu Kang bicycling off a pillar and kicking Reptile in the dome while techno music blared in the background, you know? That scene was my drug of choice when I was 14 years old. We feel that without these two scenes, the movie wouldn't have hit nearly as hard with the fans, but at the same time, because we had these two scenes, that's what made Annihilation chase the elaborate fights to a T. They thought that more fighting made a better movie, when the quality of the fights matters a lot as well. Sonya versus Jade fight that never made it to the screen. In the 1995 film, Sonya gets one real fight. She beats Kano, which is the most satisfying character payoff in the film because, as you know, Kano killed her partner. Sonya defeating him was well earned, but here's the thing. Sonya was supposed to have another fight with Jade in the secret arena. This scene made it onto the script but was never shot. It was considered to be a big part of the film right up until the last minute, and if you look into the novelization written by Martin Del Rio, which is based on an early version of the script, this fight was still present, and in that fight, Jade has a small role where she's presented differently from the staff-wielding Jade we recognize today. Now, this is important because Jade debuted in Mortal Kombat 2 as a secret hidden fighter, so not including her in the film was a big loss. I mean, she was in the script, so why didn't she make the final cut? Plus, think about how amazing that would have been for Sonya. Sonya is one of the three main Earth warriors, and unlike Liu Kang and Johnny, who both get two fights with Outworld fighters, Sonya only fights Kano and then gets taken hostage. This Jade fight would have put Sonya in the tournament as an active participant instead of a target, plus it would have established her as a warrior who can handle whatever's thrown her way. Because remember, Kano was a human criminal from Earth. Jade, on the other hand, was a supernatural opponent. I know they got rid of the scene because of time constraints. After all, the whole film was pretty dense already. But hey, it does kind of explain why Bridget Wilson seemed to be waiting around in the second half of the film, right? The Liu Kang and Kitana romance that Robin Shou actually wanted to film. We know that Robin Shou pretty much carried the Mortal Kombat films on his back. He was dedicated to his character, he went above and beyond for the role, and there was one moment he was really excited to shoot, but it got cut. Yup, it's the part where he falls in love with Talisa Soto. Across much of the Mortal Kombat lore, Liu Kang and Kitana's romance is central to the franchise. In the games, across many timelines, they have a bond that grounds both of them. As the lore progressed, they kind of became the main couple, you know? And in this film, the whole romantic storyline was replaced with basically nothing. We get a brief sparring match, some cryptic advice, and a moment where Liu watches her walk away while longingly staring at her. There are implications everywhere, but nothing concrete. And this decision again seems to have come from the production side because the film already had so much going on. Adding a romantic subplot would have been risky, but there's a huge difference. This romantic couple is quite literally an anchor for the franchise, so we have no idea what they were thinking. If they had left some breadcrumbs in the first movie, we would have gotten a better picture in Annihilation. It would have felt earned. Instead, things are just happening, and we're here for the ride. But hey, that's Mortal Kombat, baby. Mortal Kombat Annihilation, 1997. Johnny Cage's death could have had a different shape. This is one of the most controversial and highly criticized things that this film did. They killed off Johnny Cage in the opening moments of the film, and everyone was up in arms about it. Why wouldn't they be? You've got Shao Kahn attacking Sonya, Johnny jumping in to save her, and dying almost instantly. There's no time for us to actually register what's happening because the movie just goes on like we didn't just lose a core character. Now, why did this happen? Well, that's a long story. We've got a whole ass video about it if you want to check it out, but in short, reports around the sequel say Lyndon Ashby wasn't happy with the script and also had issues around how his sequel situation was handled, so he passed. And with him not being on screen, production had to quickly find a replacement. They got Chris Conrad into the role, and Conrad stepped into an impossible situation because he was replacing one of the most beloved performances from the original film, and the script barely gave him time to make the role his own. So, with Ashby gone and the sequel already juggling a much larger roster, the film chose to remove Johnny almost immediately. We can't help but wonder what the movie would have been like had Lyndon Ashby returned, because the Annihilation script could have had more emotional weight with him in it, or, at least with him dying later. That truly would have been something to experience, because Johnny's death could have had more meaning. Instead, we got a rushed death that very clearly felt like production's way of washing their hands of Johnny Cage. Sheeva versus Raiden, the fight that got killed by a budget lie. Sheeva is a four-armed Shokan warrior played by Margene Holden, and according to fan discussions and script cut breakdowns, Sheeva was supposed to have a bigger action sequence that didn't survive into the final movie. This fight would have taken place around some Edenian temple ruins, and it was going to be a big deal. However, it was completely dropped. Why? The usual explanation is that making Sheeva's four-limbed physicality work convincingly during the action sequence would have been expensive and difficult for the production. The budget didn't have much space for that, and as a result, Sheeva dies an unceremonious death when Liu Kang drops a cage on her. This death is way too fast and anticlimactic for our tastes, and most audiences agree with us. This death doesn't feel earned, it feels like a grand deus ex machina. Margene Holden's Sheeva has been cited by fans as one of the sequel's most wasted characters, because Sheeva, as a character, has a lot of potential. In the games, her rivalry with Motaro, her loyalty to Sindel, and her complicated place inside Outworld's politics all make her an interesting character that the director could have used to show more layers of the Mortal Kombat lore. Instead, she was given expository dialogue, and then she was killed off just like that. And it hurts even more because of how much Goro we got in the first film. His fight with Art Lean is maximum brutality delivered mid-film. He doesn't have any expository dialogue, he just shows up and shows what he's made of, and we know how dangerous he is. Sheeva deserved the same treatment because she's just as formidable as Goro. Watching her fight Raiden, one of the strongest characters in the Mortal Kombat franchise, literally a thunder god, would have been amazing. She would have become the visual anchor for the third act of the movie, like Goro was in the first, and it would have also given Annihilation a memorable landmark set piece. But we got none of that because the budget was already too tight and they had deadlines to meet. It really sucks when an accounting decision ends up butchering a film. The Baraka fight and the roster problem. In the final cut of Annihilation, Baraka, the Tarkatan warrior with retractable arm blades, leads a brief ambush on Liu Kang inside Shao Kahn's castle. It lasts about 45 seconds and that's it. According to fan reports and script cut discussions, this may have been planned as a more involved encounter at one stage. We would have gotten a proper encounter where Liu Kang had to improvise to not get killed. The scene was supposed to make us feel scared for our hero's well-being, but then what we got just made the whole thing feel like a skirmish, and the same problem happened with Rain, Melina, and to a certain degree, Ermac. See, all of these characters are fan favorites for a reason, and when this lineup was discussed, fans were hyped. But the production treated all of these characters like revolving set pieces. But ultimately, the movie ran for 95 minutes. If there were this many characters showing up on screen and being done justice, there's no way we would have even remotely enough time to sit with the characters who actually carry the film. Baraka is visually distinctive, his weapons are unique, and the fight with Liu Kang could have written itself. And if this fight was properly staged, it would have been a highlight that people still talk about. Instead, we're stuck with Annihilation rushing so much that we don't even know who to hold on to. The Shinnok and Quan Chi alternate ending. The MK4 sequel tease that never paid off. I kid you not, this deleted scene keeps me up at night sometimes. You see, Annihilation was supposed to have a brief post-credit scene. We would see Shinnok in Netherrealm having a conversation with Quan Chi. Shinnok would ask the sorcerer if everything was going according to plan, and Quan Chi would nod yes. Then they'd leave, but this scene was supposed to set the stage that, hey, Shinnok and Quan Chi had been behind Shao Kahn this whole time, and everything that just happened over the last two films was just the beginning. Producer Alison Savage actually confirmed in a Q&A session that an unseen Quan Chi ending was filmed, with Quan Chi played by an extra from Thailand who didn't speak English, but who was visually striking enough to let the scene breathe. But that scene never made it to the final cut, And Savage said that it was because there are many voices involved in filmmaking, which is a diplomatic answer if I've ever seen one. Now, if you go into the documented script analysis, you'll see that this whole scene was a lot more fleshed out originally. Like Quan Chi was going to resurrect Scorpion, speak with Shinnok, and talk about ruling Outworld and Earthrealm together, so they had a pretty good setup, and they shot an alright version of it, but even that didn't make the cut. And what hurts the most is that, according to the script analysis, they were supposed to be in their MK4 outfits, and MK4 came out the same year this film did. The game is literally built around the dynamic between these two characters, so with this ending, they would have given a nod to the audience about what's to come in the franchise. You know, the same way Marvel does for us? Instead, the movie ended with the heroes celebrating while Shao Kahn dissolved. That's not Mortal Kombat. Where's Shinnok? Where's Quan Chi? But then again, it's hard to blame them for cutting this scene. Annihilation was already walking on thin ice with the hectic production schedule and everything, so it makes sense that they wanted to be very picky about what they wanted to show on screen and what they didn't. Maybe they just wanted to play it safe, but if the scene had remained, it would have given a hint to the audience about what's coming next. But at the same time, Annihilation did very poorly at the box office, so we don't know if that one scene would have made a difference, or if anybody would have even showed up for a sequel. And there we have it, guys. All the major deleted scenes from the old school Mortal Kombat movies. Let me tell you, when we started our research for this one, we didn't think we'd unearth so many key details, but hey, hindsight's 2020, and now that I know these things, it makes so much sense. I always wondered why Sonya kind of just stopped existing in the second half of the 1995 film, or why it felt like there was so much tension between Liu Kang and Kitana, but they never acted on it. We feel that the Mortal Kombat movies paved the way for other video game-inspired movies to learn from. These two films showed us that there was a market, but also what happens when you try to cater to said market without thinking clearly. Looking at you, Annihilation. Let us know in the comments what you guys thought of our little list here and which deleted scene opened your eyes the most. Don't forget to like and subscribe as always, and we'll see you guys in the next one. That's it, I got the rest of them. Thanks so much, have a great day.